I met you for the first time tonight, I would love you.
Come on, Conrad. I mean, how do you know that?
Because I've changed everything about myself, and the one thing that never changes is that I love you.
Conrad and Belly have each shown incredible character growth throughout the entire show, the entire 3 seasons, but I think this scene highlights the most important one. Both Conrad and Belly have grown up. They have changed themselves, not in a way that changes exactly who they are, but they have found out who they actually want to be. They have found out their passions, they have found out their dreams, and they have found who they are and where they belong in the world individually. But the core values of who they actually are as people has not actually changed from when they were kids. It is not a coincidence that Conrad, the self-proclaimed nerd from when he was a kid, who had a stamp collection and was showing Belly the meaning of infinity and all these mathematical symbols, ended up wanting to become a doctor and thoroughly enjoying that. Even he still plays football. We saw that in season 1 he wasn't able to go to football camp because he wanted to stay here with his mother, but now he is still playing football in college. He wants to do that. He's still the same person he was, even if he has matured. Season 1 Belly is an absolute hardcore hopeless romantic. She watches all these old films and wants to get caught up in all these sweeping romances and have that be her reality. It is not a coincidence that she ends up in the self-proclaimed most romantic city in the world. It's full of art, it's full of culture, and she can really flourish there. That is her people. That's who she wants to be around, this absolute romantic environment. But they have changed as well. Conrad used to be a character who couldn't speak to anyone about the truth. He couldn't tell them what was going on because he was so protective of them. And so he would keep people in the dark as a form of protecting them, which ended up hurting them later on. He had a real problem with communicating and a real problem with anxiety. He was getting frequent panic attacks in season 1 and didn't know how to handle anything because he wasn't letting anyone in. And this spilled into season 2 and the devolution of his and Belly's relationship. But we see by season 3, Conrad is in therapy. He's getting help. He's managing his anxiety, and he's also progressed in a way where he is able to communicate properly with the people that he loves, to a point where he is boldly proclaiming to anyone who will listen how he actually feels by the middle of the season. Belly has matured as well. Back in season 1, we saw her as such a romantic character, but she was also a little bit living in a fantasy world and allowing herself to stay there. We see this in her relationship with Conrad, this naivety that doesn't want her to actually see what is really going on. She knows that there are problems, but she doesn't want to push, she doesn't want to ask the questions, she doesn't want to know because she's actually kind of happy living in this beautiful, perfect, fantasy, idealized relationship that she has created. This also does spill into her relationship with Jeremiah, where she clings to him because they think they're in the perfect relationship, and they're also terrified to leave each other because they were the only reason they got through Susanna's death. And so by the end of this season, when she finally moves to Paris, we see Belly come into her own completely. She's less reckless with what she says, she's more cautious, but still being that bold, confident character that we know and love her to be. She still wears her heart on her sleeve. She still goes about life fearlessly, but she is now asking the right questions because she knows she has to. She doesn't want to live in a fantasy world anymore. She doesn't want to have a fake idealized relationship that will inevitably crumble. She wants to know what is actually going on. She wants something real. When Conrad tells Belly that he has changed every single thing about himself and the one thing that never changes is that he loves her, I think it's less about him changing literally every single aspect about himself and more about the fact that these are two characters who have matured. They have grown up. Their worst traits are no longer the same as they were before. They have evolved and they have become better versions of themselves individually, but the part of them that doesn't change, the core values that they fell in love with when they were young children, have remained the same. Belly is still that hopeless, starry-eyed romantic, but she's no longer naive. Conrad is still that protected, strong figure, but he's no longer closed off. They have both evolved to a point where now they look at each other and they say, I still love you. This could work now. I think this is one of the things that people misinterpret when they're watching the show, and they watch this scene in particular and think that, well, Belly and Conrad have changed who they are. It doesn't really make sense that they'd still be in love with each other after all this time, because the core values of the people who they are have not changed, and those were the things that they fell in love with. It's also why I think the final episode was so perfect. We didn't need to see them together for months. I am glad we're getting a film so we can see them happy together, because I think it's something that we all want, but I also think that it's clear that even just spending a day together after a year apart, before then spending a few weeks together in the summer slightly avoiding each other, and 4 years before then not seeing each other, one single day when they have changed themselves, grown into themselves, matured in such extreme ways, and they can spend that one day talking to each other like nothing is different, like they still know exactly who that person is and still see them for exactly who they are and still love them for exactly who they are. That's it. That's the point of it. They still love each other because the core values have not changed, and they see each other in a way that no one else really can. If I met you today, I would love you. And I think that's it. They are each other's person in a way that feels timeless.
I'll yap more about the finale in the coming days. It's been kind of busy, but let's talk about this movie and when the release date is going to be. I'm going to be flat out honest. I don't believe a word out of Jenny Han's mouth at all. Love her to pieces, but do not believe her. So I'm going to put on my Swiftie clown mask, and I'm saying we're getting this way sooner than they're making it seem in these interviews. Because this is not a spin-off. This is not a new love triangle. Like, the story has ended. And now this movie is just going to be Belly and Conrad getting married with some minor, like, plot conflicts, wrapping up loose ends, and that's it. It's like a extended finale of the show. They're going to want to ride the waves of the success right now, because technically the story is over. We know who she picked, right? And so in order to get people hyped to watch this movie that aren't book lovers or just like really psycho about the show, like all of us here that can't stop yapping about it, like, they're going to want to strike while the iron is hot. It just makes sense from Amazon's position. Like, why would they want to all of a sudden market this movie in 2027 unless the story is not the epilogue that we're thinking it is, which then what the hell is it? It doesn't make sense. And also, if they were going to be filming in Paris for a little bit of the movie, and like we're gonna see Belly like come back to Cousins and like Conrad and Belly in Christmas in Paris or whatever, they would have wanted to already have filmed those scenes, right? And I know that Valentine's Day probably got filmed, and I think Team Jared keeps talking about the sand crab scene with young Jeremiah being filmed. So probably filmed things that we haven't seen yet, and maybe it's possible that there is still a little bit yet to be filmed or finished, but it just doesn't make sense that they would be like starting from scratch. And one of the articles I read with Jenny today said that this idea of this movie came to her between season 2 and 3 because she knew where she wanted to take the series and where she wanted to end the series with Belly and Conrad in Paris. And she didn't want to have to like risk, you know, the epilogue just being rushed at the end into a montage of just like Belly and Conrad get married. She didn't want to do that. So she knew from the very beginning of season 3 that that was going to be told in a movie. So why wouldn't she have capitalized off of the scheduling of these actors on set and the production crew and all of that to film a majority of this movie? So they're gonna probably announce the dates here soon. They're gonna wait for the buzz to die, for people to finish watching the finale and talking about it, and then once it gets a little quiet, they're gonna announce that it's going to be December of this year, December 14th or something like that, or it'll be like maybe June of next year, of 2026. There's no way we're waiting 2 years to just see Belly and Conrad get married. I'll still watch it, but I'm just saying, I think they would lose a lot of other people's interest in this movie. Let me know what you guys are thinking, but Clown Mask is on, and I'm ready.
My friend, am I happy? Am I happy? There are not words to describe the joy that I feel. Pretty much the entire episode, whenever Belly and Conrad were in a scene, they were in it together. At first was I a little nervous because Belly was acting very apprehensive towards Conrad being there. When I saw her fixing her lipstick, I said, oh nah, she's trying to look good for him. As the walls started to come down, things started to get better. By the time they got to the birthday dinner, it was game over. She was down bad again and couldn't hide it anymore. Conrad stood 10 toes down. Nah, I like her. Yeah, I came here to see her. I'm aware the bus was in an hour and a half. I came to see Belly. So Benito, you can stay mad. She dumped you 6 weeks ago. Get over it. When Conrad asked her, has she moved on? And she kissed him. This is what we've been waiting for. But I'm not gonna lie, Belly got me scared for a minute with that self-sabotage nonsense. I get it, you were scared, but I was like, girl, stop. How much more clear can this man make it that he loves you? Send him on his way, how dare you? Then she had a conversation with Junior Mint and everything fell back into place. She realized it's only been and it will only ever be Conrad Beck Fisher. And in rom-com style fashion, she runs to the train station and gets her man. That's my end game.
Everyone on my timeline right now that is like mad at Belly like being mean to Conrad in this episode and like wanting him to leave after they like finally like did it after all this time. Consider yourselves blessed that you've never been in a situation where someone that you love just suddenly stopped loving you or like stopped being romantic with you. And then maybe years down the line you see them again and then they say that they love you and then once again take it back, because that's exactly what happened in that motel. He said that he, you know, had feelings for her still, and then the next day was like, forget everything that I said, take it back. That's why she was with Jer. So of course they just had this wild romantic Paris evening and she was scared. She was scared that the same thing was gonna happen where he was gonna be like, whoop, never mind, especially given that, you know, what did he come for? What did he think like was gonna happen? That they were gonna go home together and live happily ever after? Like, I would have the same questions as her. I'd be like, what the F? Like, after all this time, like, why did you even write me letters? Do you want to be with me? Hello? I don't know. I just feel like it was like so real and so valid for her to be like scared.
I love this comment because it's so rare that I get this comment. But yeah, this is the thing. She's human. And I think, because like I had somebody say in the comments like, no, she is fucking cold. And it's like, well, I think it is a little gendered because women are like, we're cold, we're bitchy, we're rude, we're like, we're not being nice. Like, it's always like, we're just judged for our like, we're just judged and also minimized and dehumanized in a way. Whereas, you know, if you compare it to Conrad and Jeremiah too, because Jeremiah shippers do it like, you know, examine him and defend him and protect him. And it's like, no, his behavior is coming from this place. Like, you know, he was acting out because of his dad or like all of these things. Whereas for Belly, it's just, oh no, she's fucking cold because she's a bitch. When it's like, well, if you know, want to use your brain a little bit and don't want to be sexist and, you know, don't want to center your viewing just around a man on the show, maybe she's not just being cold. Maybe she's not just being cold. And the other thing that shits me is people are like, well, it's because Chris plays Conrad so well. It's like in the micro expressions. And it's like, you notice those because you're paying way more attention to him because you want to pay way more attention to him, which is like, and I love Chris, but it's also like, well, of course you're going to then just read Lola's as like, well, Lola's just, you know, or Belly's just like, she's being cold and there's nothing else to it. Because like, you're not viewing her in the same way that you want to view Chris. Anyway, but yeah, thank you. And I will always want to see her as human. Like all of the characters, hopefully, are seen as human. And that she's not being cold for fun. She's like, you know what would be really fun to do? Being really cold to Conrad. Like, and that's what I was trying to get into in those videos. Like, there's so much more going on here. Like, why? What her, where it's coming from. And even she does say in the book, she's like, I could hear the way my voice was. My voice sounded so cold. And it's because she needs to push him away, but also keep this barrier between them. So she's it's all intentional because of so much more complex things. And, you know, again, because she loves him so much. Anyway, I'm rambling, but thank you for this comment because it's so rare that I get it. And so, yeah, any Belly people that want to see Belly as human, you're welcome here. I'm feeling so emotional, which I know a lot of us are, and I've like gone back and rewatched those scenes and just, I'm so glad they're together. I'm so glad. I just
it makes me so happy, and I don't care how lame that is. I don't care. It just makes me so happy that these two fictional people are together, and, you know, that they love each other so much, and even, you know, from when they were little, but it has nothing to do with being told or being forced or fated. It's like, no, they're choosing to love one another, and that's just so amazing, and I'm just so happy, and I'm like so grateful for the story to have ended this way. Like, thank fuck it ended this way.
This was a change from the books. Belly says, "Your letters kept me going. Whenever I was lonely or missed home, I would just sit and read them." In the book, Belly talks about how Conrad kept the letter that she wrote him back in his wallet, soft and creased into a million little folds, which we saw him doing that in episode 10 with Agnes. And then she says, Conrad said it kept him going, kept him hoping. And I'm obsessed with this change because it was Belly this time around in the series that needed the hope that she could one day potentially return home and forgive herself. And that's what I think this clarified. One, that Belly loved these letters and that she cherished them, because I think that was something we didn't know, or some people didn't know in episode 10. But two, this is why Belly was trying so hard to keep her feelings for Conrad tucked away, and she was trying to move on so much because she didn't forgive herself, and she was harboring all this guilt, and she was almost ashamed of the person that she was, and the person that she used to be was somebody who was in love with Conrad. You see her in this scene when they're down by the river talking about prom and the funeral. And you saw her with Benito saying, "I'm the villain." And Conrad has to keep reassuring her, like, you're not the villain in this story. You don't have to hide away because you think you need to be punished in exile. So she's like harboring all this guilt, not only from what happened with Jeremiah and Conrad, but even her relationship with Conrad the first time around, and not being able to be, I guess, mature enough to handle such a complex situation where Conrad was struggling with his grief and his mom. And it's like she's putting all the blame on herself and like not forgiving herself for just being young and unable and unequipped to handle that. And then her insecurities come back out when she's telling Conrad, like, if your mom never got sick, would you have even looked at me twice? Wouldn't you have just gone off to football camp, right? And everything would have just been the way it was when you were ignoring me. And he's like, no, because the summer before I started to have feelings for you. And she still like wasn't allowing herself to like believe that. And, you know, she says, like, would our relationship have felt so important if your mom wasn't dying? Like, would we have really like, you know, had that magnitude of a love connection? And part of that, I think, is because she's starting to realize that her and Jeremiah kind of forced themselves into a relationship to deal with the grief. And she's starting to say, like, is that what it was with me and Conrad, but from Conrad's perspective? So Belly can't forgive herself for her past mistakes, and she can't get over her insecurities. And so she has not been trying to necessarily just move on from Conrad this entire series. She's been trying to move on from past Belly and who she was. And that's all one and the same. So when Belly is kind of alone to her thoughts after Conrad leaves and she's looking at a picture of baby Belly, she's starting to finally kind of like deal with it and be like, I loved who I used to be. I'm trying to change myself and run from the past and run from that past version of myself. But shouldn't I give her some grace? And then she's remembering that, you know what? I loved her. I have brown hair and brown eyes, and I love Conrad Fisher. And that version of Belly loved Conrad Fisher. It's like she finally like snapped out of it and was like, Conrad's telling me that I don't have to punish myself. Why am I still punishing myself? And she finally accepts the version of her that she has really struggled with all 3 seasons, that Conrad has loved. He's loved that Belly the whole time. And it finally kind of all clicked for her in that moment. And then that's why she chases after him and says, like, I will choose you in every lifetime, because that version of herself and the version she will always be will always love Conrad Fisher. And it really just makes me, like, kind of want to cry a little bit. Like, I'm kind of getting teary-eyed talking about it, because I think we can all kind of relate to, like, a thing that we've done in our past that has taken us so long to forgive ourselves for, and we end up hating ourselves and trying to change, and then we're not happy in that new place that we're in. And as much as Belly was happy in Paris, and I do think, like, she grew so much in Paris, she was not being true to herself. And that's why those letters from Conrad kept her going, because that was the link back to baby Belly, to young Belly, and to true inner Belly. I just think it was really, really well done, and I love it.
Hardly had time to even process the finale, and then they drop this. We're getting a movie. The Summer I Turned Pretty, the movie, is coming to us. Here's what we know so far. I love that it's just Lola and Chris in this photo. There's no love triangle, which obviously that was cleared up in the finale, but they're just really, really making it clear this is their movie. So this movie announcement was literally just made at the Paris finale event that they're having. On Variety, Jenny Han was quoted saying, "There's another big milestone left in Belly's journey, and I thought only a movie could give it its proper due. Exact plot details are under wraps, aside from the fact that it will continue the story of the series, which just aired their finale for the 3rd and final season. We will write the movie, and that's literally all we know." It was obviously so cute to get their Christmas in Paris after they got together, but I feel like everybody was wondering, where's the engagement? Where's Belly and Conrad reuniting with everybody back in America? Where's the wedding? Where's the belly flop? I was personally just left wondering, like, where's the rest of their story? I thought that we just had to kind of infer what was happening, and I'm just so happy that we're actually going to see it play out. I'm so curious if they've already filmed some scenes for this, because, for example, I thought that they filmed the Valentine's Day flashback, so I was so confused when we didn't see it in the episode last night. So maybe they filmed some scenes when they were filming the last season, but I'm assuming that they still need to film the majority of the movie. The cast is going to be on the Today Show tomorrow morning, so hopefully we'll get some more information then. But all we know now is that we are getting a Belly and Conrad movie, and these two are going to be movie stars. I'm so excited.
All this time, I wanted to believe I changed. That I'm not the same girl I was. But I am still her. And was that girl so bad? She followed her heart no matter what. And despite all her mistakes, I have to believe she's still worthy of love. I still love her. And I still love him. I have brown hair and brown eyes, and I will always love Conrad Fisher. What if you only love me because that's what your mom wanted, and then your mom died?
That is not why I love you. I have tried everything not to love you for the sake of Jer, for the sake of not dragging you down with me in my grief. I fought it way before the summer that my mom got sick. You've always been a precious person to me. I have always cared about you. And then at some point, I started to see you differently, and that scared me because I didn't want things between us to change. But the way that I feel about you, Belly, has nothing to do with my mom. If I met you for the first time tonight, I would love you.
Come on, Conrad. I mean, how do you know that?
Because I've changed everything about myself, and the one thing that never changes is that I love you.
I just finished watching the finale, and for the most part, 10s across the board. I watched it while getting ready for work. 10s across the board. I was swooning, I was crying, I was screaming. It was fantastic. However, not getting one last scene of them all in Cousins together was crazy. Not getting one last scene of Steven, Conrad, and Jeremiah goofing off together. Not seeing how Belly and Denise are gonna become friends. How they're gonna interact. Because remember, they've never met. I didn't think we were gonna get a Belly Conrad wedding like I hoped it, but I didn't think it. But we didn't even see Taylor and Belly interact this episode. And I know we harp on Belly Conrad. I know I do. But contrary to popular belief, I do care about their relationship with others within the series. So that was the only thing I was really sad that we didn't get one last scene of them all together in Cousins. But otherwise, we got our end game. It's perfect. More thoughts later. I gotta get to work.